Hello heroes, Luigi here, and this is episode 2 of my new Twitch. Oh, echoing a little bit. So this is episode 2 of my new Twitch series called Tuesday Tournament Reviews. In this series, I do reviews for my guests in order to help them become steady winners in mid-stakes and low-stakes tournaments. About me briefly, my real name is Waldemar Kreuzer. You may also know me as Luigi. I'm one of the steadiest winners in mid-stakes tournaments, and I also am a coach. I have coached more than 200 players already. And in 2018, at the very top of my online career, I realized that teaching and learning poker should be much more efficient and much more fun. So I started dreaming about a tool which enables players to compare decisions super quickly. So I decided to quit the grind, and I started managing this platform, which is checkdecide.com. In CheckDecide, you can share tournaments super quickly with just a few clicks, and whoever has access to your tournaments can review the hands with action buttons. This means that whenever there is a decision, they have to make one before the hand continues. The hand always continues according to your original plays, but we book the decisions of the visitor and we make comparison to let you know where he deviated. So this makes reviewing hands, reviewing full tournaments super quick and quite fun. And yeah, I started this series to promote and demonstrate the power of this tool. And yeah, this is episode 2. Episode 1 was last week. Every week you can find this series at 7 p.m. CET, which is 1 p.m. ET. And last week we started a tournament review for a private student of mine, former professional basketball player, Roland Szabó. Welcome, Roland. How are you?
Awesome. I'm good. How you doing, Luigi?
Pretty good. A little bit tired, but that's always good. Yeah, and yeah, I think we left at hand number 77. So let me see. You have to open this multibar and you have to select, or you can select one player if you are interested in that player's decisions and deviation from the play of the original user. In this case, obviously, it was Roland who played this tournament, and I clicked the hand through, and you can see these numbers. And you can see where I deviated from his original plays. So we left at hand number 77. So let's continue with the next hand where I deviated. So we should not talk about hands where we played 100% the same. There is probably very little to find there. But if we talk about this hand, we can probably have some useful ideas. And let me see. For viewers, feel free to comment, feel free to share your ideas, ask questions, either from me or from Roland, even about his professional basketball career, whatever you are interested in. This is not just strictly about tournaments and poker, but feel free to ask any question. I'm personally very into mental game. I love thinking about how our mind works. So if you have any question about that, feel free to post it, and I will try. I will do my best to answer. So yeah, let's start with this hand, and yeah, the open is completely fine with this tax depth. You probably don't want to raise bigger than the minimum here. Also, this hand really prefers postal play, so you kind of want to induce action. Unfortunately, the flop rigged us, but on monotone textures, you almost always can fold out enough to justify a very tiny c-bet, because 3 of the colors are completely missed on this texture. So against the big blind, this would be a very, very easy c-bet. Against the small blind, it's more questionable, but it is very, very hard for him to do anything here with a bunch of hands like ace-9 of diamonds, ace-8 of like hearts, king queen of diamond, or anything like that. He just has to fold, and that's fine. That's really good for us. So I would go with a tiny c-bet in most of the cases, and I think that's profitable. If we don't do the c-bet, I don't think we should bet anywhere on this run out. So it's completely fine. And yeah, feel free to interrupt me with any questions anytime, Roland. I just want to cover the most hands possible.
So Luigi, if it's come 3 similar suits, then it's better to bet all my range pretty much with whatever.
Yeah, like against the big blinds, the big blind definitely. Actually, it is quite tricky because if we put this into a simulator and we are interested in like what hands they should check raise here, mostly like PioSolver and other solvers advise you to check raise bottom pairs, because they don't have much to lose. So if there is a re-raise coming, that you can easily fold it, but they have a slight chance of beating some like slow played flushes by making runner full house, like it happened here. Like some unlikely run outs, they can give you full houses, which is obviously fantastic for you. The deeper the stacks, the more it is legit. With shallow stacks, it is really, really hard to find non-all-in check raises here on this texture. So I think this small c-bet is profitable against almost anyone.
Okay.
And the next one is a big blind situation. When the small blind limps on you, you generally have to raise like quite aggressively. With this stack depth, 24 big blinds effective, I expect the small blind to limp raise all in a lot, especially in bounty tournaments where they expect us to raise a lot. But with 24 big blinds, king queen of suit, with the bounty on the villain's head, I think this is a strong enough hand to just raise and go with it. So I like the raise. I don't think we have to raise that big as you did. We kind of want to induce limp calls from marginal hands like king 8 of suit and other dominated combos. So I think a smaller raise works better. And also 24 big blinds deep, you probably don't want to use like close to 4x sizing. And the next hand where we deviated is an ace-5 suited hand. The call is very, very standard. What many players don't know that with these stack depth, 3-betting is not really attractive in position, even if you can cause some trouble for the original raiser. If you use too many of your strong hands to make 3-bets here, and then your calling range is going to suffer a lot, and you definitely want to make a lot of marginal calls here with suited hands, some offsuit broadways, etc. So if you check the, let's see, the range is what the solver suggests. So against, what is it, a hijack? no, low jack open, 30 big blinds deep. We can see that the button barely ever does 3-betting, like only the very, very strong hands, and like hands like ace queen always goes to the flat range to protect the other marginal calls like king 8 suited, 10-8 suited, 6-7 suited, 6-5 suited. So earlier, like back in the days, almost every time you had a good hand, 30 big blinds deep, the standard was to 3-bet and go with it and balance this with some light 3-bets. But if we take a look at this strategy, we can see that it is more like governed by the flat calls. So we want to realize equity with all these hands. So therefore, we don't do marginal 3-bets like pocket nines, ace queen, and other stuffs. And if it goes like other positions, we can see that there is quite a lot of trapping with aces as well. And if we go 25 big blinds, we can see that it goes like 25 big blinds versus the hijack. You should actually slow play kings and queens almost all the time, which is quite shocking for someone who like me, who learned poker back in the days when it was all about pre-flop aggression. So yeah, but back to this hand, like ace 5 suited is definitely a very, very easy flat. And on this flop, with the 1/7 against the 1/7 pot bet, I'm not sure. Like we can probably fold or peel. I'm not really used to playing against like 1 BB bet in a 7 BB pot, so you can probably not make any big mistake. I think even like raising is also a very good option here. You have very weak backdoors. You don't have much to lose here, but this small bet is often something like ace 8 or something which you can fold out immediately, or 9-8 or weak queen, etc. So raising makes a lot of sense against this sizing. And on the turn we improve. I don't think raising is too credible here. Like I don't think we get a lot of credits or a lot of folds here. So I would just go with the call, and on the river we have to fold, unfortunately. Yeah. The next hand is pocket queens, and you make a huge 3-bet, which is like kind of questionable. Given that 2 of the guys behind you are like kind of short stacks, so you commit your stack anyway with any 3-bet against them, it is probably not a big deal whether you size it to 6 BB or 5 or 10 BB. But given that the big blind has 37 BB, there are some hands you would like to fast play against the original opener, but you would not like to put in against the big blind. So therefore, I prefer a smaller 3-bet, which you can use with hands like ace jack of suit. Probably you can fast play it for the bounty, and you can still fold to the big blind if he called 4-bet jams. So yeah, I prefer using a slightly smaller sizing.
Okay.
And let me see. Like I don't see anyone in the chat. Do we have anyone here? A sec. Let's see how the Twitch goes. Yeah, we have eight viewers, but they are just silent. Guys, feel free to share any thoughts, any questions. I'm really here to help, to answer. Yeah, and yeah, the next one is this. Yeah, pocket nines is questionable. Yeah, we have a cutoff open with and the big blind and the small blind and button folds with 35 big blinds and having the bigger stack Yeah. Hello, Hedy. How are you? Hedy is a regular both in Check Decide Discord channel, and kind of regular here in Twitch, as much as someone can be a regular for 2 episodes. But yeah, welcome. And with Pocket Nines, I think the best play here is to simply regem. These small medium pocket pairs, they suffer a lot in 3-bet pots. Yeah, like your opponent still can have a lot of like suited broadways to call, and then you basically don't deny equity, but you can find yourself in a lot of crappy spots. And just fast playing it is fine, even if it's kind of face up like what you have. It's not really, because you play ace king off, ace queen off the same way, probably ace jack off as well, maybe king queen off in a bounty tournament with bigger stack as well. So it is not really easy to do anything against this regem. And also
in smaller pairs is better to shove here, and jacks and above is better to 3-bet.
Something like that. If you take a look at, like, this is 35 big blinds versus a cutoff from the big blind. Yeah, 9s are regems straight, and 10s are borderline, and with jacks you probably want to induce. And this, like, being in a bounty tournament makes fast playing more tempting. So you just want to play big pots. It doesn't matter if it's face up and they call you with something like king queen suited. It's still good for you. So cool. Yeah. This is an interesting texture against some very aggressive guys who are sticky enough pre-flop to have some bluff candidates here, like ace 8 suited or something like that. And then you may want to check this hand, because this is really a texture where the imposition caller has a lot of very strong connection. And if you don't go all in with ace king, like ace king suited, you are in quite a questionable spot here. So if you have check ranges here, like pocket 10s maybe, or ace jack suited or something like that, and then you want to use these pocket 9s to help that range. Betting is also fine. They just have enough strong hands or medium hands to go with it here. If we decided to check and the opponent bets, I don't really like what you did, like this min check raise. My problem is that it's quite face up. Like, do you ever do any like bluffs here?
No, but my thinking was it's a $2.20 tournament. So in a $22 tournament, I would never min click. But yeah, here I don't think he would get the point.
Yeah,
I totally agree with you that min shoving is way better here.
Yeah, like if you check shove, he can easily tell himself that it's just ace king or pocket 10s or whatever, and he will never ever fold any mate hand with the odds and the all the chips in the pot. So I think either check calling or check jamming, they are both better than check min raising. It's a little bit suspicious, and an educated player may find a fault here.
Okay.
Yeah, but he didn't really. He was not worried at all. And the next hand is Jack 8 of suit. And yeah, this is quite a frequent spot, so it's worth talking about it. When you face a 3x open raise, you should tighten up a lot with your flat calls, especially if it is big portion of the effective stacks. So the effective stacks are here like 17 big blinds, and you have to pay up to 3 big blind just to see a flop, where you very often just don't find anything. So your investment is just washed out. So let's take an extreme example. So let's say the effective stack is something like 8 big blind. And then you pay 3 big blind to see a flop, and you fold 70% of the time to a c bet. That's like you don't have to be a mathematician to see that it's probably a losing play. So like less extremely, but this is the case here with 17 big blinds. So you just can't pay 3 big blind to see a flop with an offsuit hand where you will have a hard time like having a strong enough connection. Luckily, your opponent checked behind, and in this case, what do you think his range is mostly built of?
Ace-X, Ace-King. I would say Ace-X is most time, or like pocket pairs as well, like nines and under.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very reasonable. Do you think he can have any like strong hands, top pair or better?
Yeah, I think he would check for sure if he have a set. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like some like top set. I don't think he should check, or don't think he checks second set too frequently here. So yeah, maybe something like top 2 or top set, that's okay, but those are like very few combinations. So most of the time you should take a like you should see his range as a very capped range. And what is also good in your hand, that having a jack blocks one of his strong check behinds. So obviously the strongest possible hand he can have is like pocket jacks here, apart from the set of queens. And therefore, you really want to start pressuring this turn. So I would like to see a big size bet. If you were deeper, I would prefer an overbet here, like 50 big blinds deep. Hello, Pokisokni. Welcome to the show. And also having like the 8 of diamond is somewhat helpful in terms of the turn fold equity, because it blocks some like connection like ace 8 of diamond or something like that picked up a flush draw. So, but that's not really relevant in this case, because with this 3x open, he will rarely have those, and only a few combinations of those. So so I would use a big size, like basically putting pressure on his whole stack. And to be honest, I would mostly give up on the rivers. Maybe I would finish it on a diamond river. But yeah, they will probably overfold to this turn bet anyway. Like you are leveraging their whole stack here, and they see that probably they would have to call a bet on the river for their whole stack. So they go ahead and fold on the turn anyway. And also, like if they have something like pocket jacks or pocket nines, this is a special spot where those are quite terrible bluff catchers, because with the jacks, if they have jacks in their hand, then it is very hard to imagine you having something like king jack or jack 9 or jack 8. So therefore, this like it that makes this situation even more tempting to make a big pair.
Okay.
Darren GBI or JBE. I'm not really good with the pronunciation. Says good morning, Darren, and welcome to the show. And feel free to ask any questions. Yeah. So I would give up on this river had I made a bet. Had I made a bet, but yeah, if we get here somehow, I think we can still go for a big bet. I would not use a small size on a or a mid size, because I think his range is very heavily weighted towards like medium strength hands with some showdown value. Even if it's just ace king or ace jack, I can still quite easily imagine them to call on this river, because board pairing rivers, ace highs almost always call a bet. So if there is one thing to take away from this show or from this episode, is not to bluff on board pairing rivers, like at least not with a small sizing. I'm not sure if he called this bet or not, but I'm quite sure that you should use an overbet sizing here. In general, my read on the population is that they hate giving you their bounty. So if you can leverage their whole stack, they will almost always overfold. So hello, Anna, how are you? Anna is also a regular in our Discord channel. And yeah, great guy. Welcome to the show. Yeah, and also being on the big blind, you can easily check something like Queen 10, Queen 5, 5-4, 10-4 suited, or even some random Queen X. Sometimes you can check twice, like your weakest Queen X, and then on this river you can go for full value. But I'm not gonna lie, this sizing for me, like 2x river sizing, going for the full stack, is very, very heavily weighted towards bluffs. So I just have the strong feeling that they overfold. Hetty asked, wouldn't the 5 be better to bluff on river as we have more 5x? Maybe not against 3x open though.
And that's what I was thinking on the river. Like I can I'll play a 5-4 this way in a lot of times. So that's why I use this size. It looks, I don't know.
Yeah, like
stronger if I bet 2/3, then I just rip it here.
I really like the bluff idea here. I'm just saying that probably a 2x shove works like close to 100% of the times, or like at least 80% of the times, while this moderate sizing, which you selected, works like, I don't know, like 50% of the times or something. So both are profitable, I think, but maybe it would not work that often, the smaller sizing, because I really see a lot of calls with ace king and plug-in nines here against this one, but luckily he folded. Hetty's question is probably that against the 3x open, we probably don't defend too many 5s. That's completely true. But I think most of the guys in a $2 tournament just don't think in these details.
Plus, I was thinking I had a huge stack, so he would think I'll defend pretty much with everything, because I was playing really aggressive. That's why I built this stack. So.
Getting to this river, I think you can actually go you could go for a full stack with a decent 10 here, especially something like an overkicker like King 10, because he has a relatively big bounty compared to the buy-in, and you have every reason to believe that a King 10 is good here after 2 checks. And he would not have too many 5s in his range, especially making a 3x open. And Hetty, I completely agree that ripping in PKO is a very valuable tool in as a bluff, because people, as I said, they just hate giving you their bounty. So whenever there's a questionable situation, go for the all-in. Even if you are the smaller stack, like. Small stakes tournaments and mid stakes tournaments, I may have mentioned this in episode 1, but I cannot repeat it enough times, that these tournaments have huge fields, and even if you play them regularly, your opponents will never ever have a chance to build up enough individual reads on you. So almost everyone will go with the reads on the population. So whenever they find themselves in a questionable spot, their decisions are mainly governed by their experience with the population. So as long as you can go against the population and make a reasonable move, those moves will print you money because almost like in most of the situations when you face a huge bet on the river in low stakes tournaments, they just have it. So if you can find nice spots where your opponent's range is capped, therefore you want to use big sizing with some of your strongest hands, and and therefore you can allow some bluffs as well. These moves will print, and they. In my experience, they overfold a lot. Yeah, I would jam this, and this is actually backed by Monker Solver as well. So if you take a look at I'm not sure if this hand actually, but I'm pretty sure that we have to jam a lot of similar holdings, and with the bounties in play, I think we can jam this as well. Yeah. So 20 or 17 big blinds deep from the small blind. As you can see, you don't do much raising. You do some raising with some very good suited hands and some monsters, and some blockerish, like one high card, one low card offsuit combos, which are your steals. But majority of your range goes either to the limping range or to the open jamming range. And these hands, like 7-5 suited, they have the advantage that if you jam with 17 big blind, you can fold out a ton of better hands than yours. So your opponent will fold Jack 9 of suit without any question, for sure. And even some stronger hands like King or Queen 9 of suit, probably, even Queen 10 of suit many times. And when they call you, most of the time they will have something like Ace King, Ace Queen, King Queen of suit, etc. with 17 big blind, and then your 7-5 suited just goes decent, like 40%-ish chance. So therefore, even if it's a suited kind of connected card, which you would like to see flops and turns and rivers in deep stack games, in short stack games, these hands just go do much better by just open raising. And this is especially true with the bounties in play. So just jam it. It's not the most sophisticated play, but it's profitable for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and the next one is 5-3 of suit, and I think you didn't fold. That's right. Against this small of a raise, you kind of have to defend your whole range, either by a 3-bet or with a call. Actually, this is quite a bad raise size he selected, because with all the paddots and with your position, you will be able to make a lot of profitable calls, and you can take away the pot many times later on, but not on this texture. Like this clearly favors his range, so I don't think we can start betting too much here. I said we should not start betting. Like when you don't 3-bet, having the bigger stack in a bounty tournament, 29 big blinds effective, small blind versus big blind, you probably don't have too much connection with this texture. I assume this is correct, even with your ranges. Like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
But the thing is, in the small tournaments, like deep in the tournament, they so tight. Like even when they bet, you can make them fold like crazy good hands. So that's one when I have like 70 BBs and over. It's obviously not the correct play, but sometimes I just abuse them a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but still, I would like to see at least backdoor flush draw or something, which helps you barreling. But in general, you just don't want to like. This is a good rule of thumb for low stakes tournaments, that you just don't want to target many medium hands, many strong hands. You can live your whole career without ever trying to fold that like basically top pair or better in low stakes tournaments. Obviously, in mid stakes, many times you can make money by running over your opponents with some carefully selected combinations to bluff. But in low stakes tournaments, these are generally unnecessary. The opportunity cost of your chips is just too high. Like in every 25 hands, they will do something really silly and they will give you chips without any effort. So you should probably just go with the conservative play, but it worked. So yeah, like there are many low stakes players who don't understand their ranges and they just like make a small raise with something like pocket sixes and then they can check fold this flop. So I can imagine this actually being an okay play, but I just don't want to encourage viewers to start doing this. Yeah, triple barreling is like normally I don't want to get too deep into this, but on these textures which are high and connected, many players think that when you go for a triple barrel, you should have something like Jack 10 or some other hand blocking the straight and blocking the two pairs. So that's what population usually selects, which is not correct. It is actually more important not to have any connection to the board when triple barreling this texture, because your opponent will have a lot of hands like King 10, King Queen, Jack 10, Queen Jack, and like pocket tens, pocket queens, etc., which are normally check call, check fold hands, and it is more important not to block any of these easy check folds on the river than to block their strong hands like two pairs and straights. So you can sometimes go for a triple barrel with a hand like 5-4 suited with a backdoor flush draw or something like that. But 5-3, it's a little bit questionable. Yeah, the next one is Ace Jack of suit, and the call is very, very standard. And on the flop, I think the call is still very standard, having the backdoor flush draw. And on the turn, you elected to make a bet. I decided to rather just check. Like I understand that this queen probably favors your range a little bit more than his, because you're calling, like he may do a little bit too much c-betting on this texture, and then he can have a few more air type hands while you making the call. You don't have those type of hands. But I don't think with this particular combination, having the ace of diamond here, you should do a bet here. Normally, as we probably talked about this in the earlier episode, when you make a bet, it either has to be a value bet, a bluff, or a protection bet. And if we go with the reasons, like, is it a value bet? Probably not. Is it a profitable bluff so we can fold out many better hands? I don't think so. Maybe sometimes ace king, but I think those are going to like check call most of the time, and definitely all the pocket pairs check call all the time. And is our hand vulnerable a lot? I don't think. Like if he picked up a flush draw on the turn, then probably he barrels. If like he cannot have too many like flop flush draws, you having the ace of diamond, and yeah, like you are also blocking some of the straight draws. So there is much, like most of the hands which you can fold out are hands like ace 10, ace 9, king jack, hands with 3 outs or less. Hetty says, like the bet myself, we block lots of the best queen x holding and ace, and jack plus can fire diamond river. Yeah, you can fire Diamond River, but many times, like most of the time, it is not going to be a Diamond River, and then this holding is not going to be a good one to fire with, because you are blocking some of the easiest check call, check fold hands of the villain. So villain would play ace 10 of diamond, ace like at many ace-x of diamond hands. He would go this way, like c-betting on the flop, check calling on the turn, and check folding on the river. And you having the ace of diamond like erases these hands from his range, and therefore your river bluffs will not work. So we can definitely not make a profitable bluff, or probably not make a profitable bluff on a blank river. And I don't think we can fold out anything better, or we need protection by any means. So I think it's just a check. And also, like, players don't bet check bet bluffs too much. They don't make bet check bet bluffs too much. So I think we can safely give a free card on the river to the river. And yeah, on the river, I think we have to just give up by betting small. We can probably fold out some worse hands, actually, maybe some better hands as well, like ace king. But I don't like trying to fold out hands which we actually block. So I think when they fold, they usually have worse hand than ours. So yeah, even if it worked, yeah. Pala says he loves the stream. Keep up the good work, guys. Thank you, Pala. Much appreciated. We will definitely keep up the good work, both here and in Czech Decide. Yeah. So yeah, I think the bet on the river doesn't accomplish too much. Like, maybe you can fold out some hands like Pagit fours, but I don't think so, actually. And those hands probably don't open. They don't see bet on the flop, probably. So I think when they fold, they usually have a worse hand than ours. Yeah, the next one is Pagit aces. And we make a raise, that's standard, and we face a c-bet. Yeah. Many times when you face a c-bet, face a 3-bet with Pagit aces, you should think about slow playing it. And this is especially true in situations where your opponent has a lot of bluff 3-bets, which could be the case here normally. But in my experience, and I actually made a lot of studies on the population's tendencies, like checking big samples, millions of hands. And I found that when a smaller stack 3-bets a bigger stack, the likelihood of having a light 3-bet is just significantly lower than when a big stack pressures a smaller stack. This is just the nature of the game. Like, small stacks want to preserve their stack. They don't want to get into any risky situation for 1/3 of their stack, 1/4 of their stack. So they just pass on opportunities where they could make a light 3-bet. But when you are a big stack, you are usually emotionally up. You don't mind risking 1/10 of your chips, and you make a lot more light moves. So, and this is probably especially true with bounty tournaments. In bounty tournaments, smaller stacks are generally much tighter. So I would go for a fast play, just to like assuming that he's more into value. So I would probably just jam here. I don't like the call. Against a stronger guy who has enough bluffs here, I'm okay with the call. I probably misclicked or didn't think this through enough, but I think jamming is fine. I don't really like the small 4-bet. I don't think, like, I like to make small 4-bets in cases where I have like I can represent some light 4-bets as well. This is actually quite a good situation if you are the guy with 50 big blind and the button is an aggressive regular who has a lot of bluffs, and he's the biggest stack, then you can make some light 4-bets with hands like ace deuce suited, ace 3 suited, ace 4 suited, ace 5 suited. That's completely fine, or even ace 6, ace 7 suited. But you need deeper stacks, and you need to make sure that like he has enough bluffs. But in this situation, I think this is just too strong. And I would prefer rather just jamming, because then they don't even like think twice before calling with pocket tens or something like that. But making this sizing, it's just quite obvious that you have a hand you want to go with it, and a hand which is quite strong. Especially like I actually like the sizing in a way that if you think about it, what he sees is 98,000, which is a little bit less than 100,000. So he may interpret this as a easier call to make if he has some marginal hands. But I think this is just not important enough. You are just telegraphing that you have a strong hand here. So I prefer either jamming or calling. Yeah, but he got it in anyway.
That's why I decided just to 4-bet.
Yeah, like seeing the showdown, I have to take my words back, because obviously it worked out.
You're cold.
Yeah, had you moved in, or you probably don't win all the chips. And yeah, it's my mistake. But even if, like, the thing is with population reads, even if they are proven wrong from time to time, you still have to trust them, unless you found them wrong every day. Like then you obviously have to adjust, and maybe your reads are not good. But having played more than 10 or close to 15 years, I think these reads, like many of my reads are still correct, but some of the reads are just like I have to readjust sometimes. Maybe I have to readjust my reads about how they interpret a 4-bet here, at least in the very low stakes. Yeah. The next one is Queen 5 of suit. I assume you are on the big blind, yeah. And we face min raise. I think you have to fold this. These offsuit disconnected cards, they perform pretty poorly. You can probably call profitably against the cutoff and the button, but not against a relatively early position opener. So yeah. If we get to the flop, I think check folding is fine. Yeah. Let's see the next one. Now you are the small blind. The completion is fine. And we flop gin. And you decided to make a tiny bet, which I don't like. A fishy player who limps, I assume he's a fishy player. I'm not sure. Like, he can be top regular. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? But no, I mean, he can be a decent regular, because in bounty tournaments you have to do some open limping, because if you have a big bounty on your head and you make a lot of raises with short stack, your opponents have a very easy time rejamming on you. Therefore, limping is a very valid option, but I don't think in a $2 tournament this is the case. Many times it's just like something like ace 8 of suit, and they don't feel strong enough to make a raise, but they don't want to miss the flop, so they just make a limp. And in my experience, the open limpers, many times they have trashy ace-x hands, which is perfect for this situation to go for a check raise, because they definitely bet, or most of the time they bet their top pair, and then you can make a check raise, and they would call at least one raise, and you are still better. Yeah. And on the turn,
when you flop small flushes.
yeah. On the river, I think a tiny bet may make sense. They would call you with an ace-x most of the time, like something like 20,000. Yeah, if they had he bet, I would probably fold this one, because they don't really find bluffs on this run out with this line. Yeah. The call is fine, and we flop great. And yeah, he checked behind. What do you think when he checks behind? Like, how would you construct, or what's your estimation for the ranges? Like, how many strong hands? How many medium hands?
I mean, his range is pretty wide, just given his position. I think he would check all his flush draws, probably monsters he would check, but I'll block everything except deuces. I don't think he will have a set, so I think he's pretty weak here.
Yeah, like he can have some hands, like 10-8 of diamond or something like that, because open-enders on a flush draw flop often go to check behind, because they have a hard time calling a check raise on the flush draw texture with a straight draw. But this deep, I don't really think that's the case. Like, many times they just make a c-bet, which is quite natural. And therefore, I think the big majority of cutoff range is made of hands like ace king, ace queen, so ace high and king high hands, which basically give up, or they are definitely not strong enough to call any big bet. And in this situation, what you have to do from the big blind is to operate mainly with tiny bets, like one third bet or one quarter bets, and you can do this with any pair, like not just any pair, but actually almost your entire range. So you can do this with fourth pair, you can do this with top pair, you can do this with any straight draw, and you can actually do this with real airs like jack 4 or something, because his range is just so weak on this structure, and your range is so strong that you can you can easily bet a lot and bluff a lot here, and it works pretty good in practice. In theory, you should divide your ranges to two sizing and use one bigger sizing with your strongest hands and with some draws of yours, and use one smaller sizing with your weaker hands and some special monsters and some draws of yours. But in practice, I think it is just easier and very efficient and very really easy to execute, to just bluff basically your entire range here with, or bet your entire range here with 1/3. And if the river is not in overcard, then you can bet your entire, or not entire range, but close to your whole range with 1/3 again. And they will have a really hard time calling you enough, because it's just such a cheap bet. And yeah, with this holding, given that their range is mainly ace king, this queen and this 9/7 profits a lot by letting him to the river with ace king or ace queen with a tiny bet. And if they happen to pick up an ace or a king or any other top pair type hand, then you can still make a decent or win a decent pot. So I like this small bet. In theory, you may want to use a bigger sizing, yeah. But in practice, I like it. And on the river, I think a very tiny bet, which can function like a blocking bet, because you have a ton of 10x here, and he will have a very hard time bluff raising you. So and he can have something like ace7, ace6, ace 8 or something, which he can either call or he can bluff actually some hands like it is not that easy, but maybe some ace king or ace queen hand, he may decide to turn it into a bluff. So to avoid this, in these situations where your range is strong enough, you can use this small sizing, which are called blocker bet. But if you check and face this big bet, I think you mainly have to fold. I'm not saying like I'm 100% sure that they underbluffed this situation, but given that you made a bigger than normal sizing on the turn, I think he would have much fewer ace king and ace queen hands in his range than they would have against the tiny bet. So therefore, probably their range on the river is just too strong.
This spot is so hard.
Yeah. Like in situations like this, like first we should know whether you check your 10x hands here or not. Do you check your 10x holdings?
I'll definitely check.
Yeah, like my standard here is to mainly go for a tiny bet on the river with a merge range with 10x hands and with 2 pairs and with some strong top pairs, which have a tiny bit of value and would suffer checking and facing a big bet, and therefore they cannot really do anything against this range because I have all the 10x hands. And yeah,
when it's small stakes, it's when you check on this board, I think they're gonna hit it a lot of times because they just always go like, oh, he checked, he never has a straight here.
Yeah, like this could be the case. I'm not really familiar.
Even gonna bet. I mean, obviously not calling a 5, but by any case he has any 5, he would even bet that because he's thinking, I just never have a 10 here.
No, I don't think they value bet that thin. Like some regulars they do, and they are fine with it, especially if they take you as an average low stakes regular who never checks a 10. That's fine. But I don't think this is like general, at least in my limited experience playing in these stakes. It's questionable anyway. But whenever you are in a low stakes tournament and you are in a tough spot for a lot of chips, I suggest you to just make a nitty fold and wait for a better spot. It sounds oversimplified, but as I mentioned, the opportunity cost of your chips is just too high, and you lose very little by passing on this opportunity and waiting for a better one. So I'm okay with the fold. I don't think calling is terrible with 2 pairs. I would not like a call here against this big bet with a one pair type of hand. But yeah, it sucks. I think Hattie is asking it is interesting to see what Pio solver would show for this hand. In case you are not familiar with these solvers, which we mentioned many times, solvers are basically robots. Like what they do is they put 2 or more robots to the table and give them a spot to practice. So these robots play against each other. They try to adjust to the leaks they identify at their villain, which is another robot. And the developers leave these robots to play against each other for as long as they get to the so-called game theory optimum strategy, which is a strategy where they cannot make adjustments against each other any longer to make some extra profit. This doesn't mean they break even, because if it's a favorable spot for one of the robots, then that robot will make a profit. but they cannot make any further adjustment to increase that profit, or the other robot cannot make any adjustment to decrease the profit of the other robot. So this is what solvers are. And there are some, like BioSolver is probably the market leading software. And if you are really stuck with the situation, it's probably good to ask for a solution like this. And then you can start thinking about the situation a little bit more clearly. But I'm a big advocate of not implementing the results of these solvers like blindly to any situation. Especially in low stakes, you almost always have some kind of read, some kind of statistics to make some educated guesses and make an exploitative play. But yeah, Pala is saying that I think it's very hard for them to find a bluff in this spot. They oversee bet their draws on the flop, and they don't tend to turn their one pair type hands into bluffs. Yeah, I completely agree, Pala. Yeah, that's why I suggested a fold. Yeah, it is tough, but probably fold. Yeah, going to the next hand. Yeah, let's see. Like, there is a tiny difference here. So the call is very, very standard. On the flop, we have no reason to lead out, obviously. And on the turn, I think a tiny stab is fine with this hand. We need some protection. And if we can fold out something like King 10 of diamond or just an ace high, that's probably fine. Or especially like ace 10 or something which has 6 outs, that's perfect. Or we can get calls from verse 9x. We can get calls from smaller packet pairs with one heart or without a heart. So I think betting small is fine. And on the river, I think betting is still fine. You don't have to, like, one of the leaks of the low stakes population is that they make a bet or make a raise as soon as they think they have any reason to make it. So if they don't bluff raise you on the turn, you should not really worried about being bluff raised on the river anytime. And given how this hand played out, you have a lot of reason to believe that you have the strongest hand here. And you also don't really want to face a bluff here on this river, although you have some, you probably have a profitable call against the medium-sized bet here, because villain can have some hands like Jack 10 with one heart, or King 10 with one heart, 10-8 with one heart, or without a heart. So there are some hands for your villain to bluff with, but I don't think those are better than just betting small. And yeah, like, it is once again very, very, very questionable. But I like this call better, given those hands which I described. I'm just a little bit afraid that we are facing a thin value bet from jacks or tens or even like ace 9 here. So yeah, I think folding is still best. You may get bored by me always advising to fold in big pots, but as I mentioned, like, you will have much easier times. But whatever, we made a call and we're good. Yeah, this one is definitely close.
But it's more of a call, right? Because he just have so many busted draws here.
Yeah, like maybe like also you have you should not forget that you have odds here, so you don't need to be have a winning hand here 50% of the time, not even closely. You just have to be winning here like 30% or something like that, and you will have Hattie says that river is under bluffed by NA, saying that villain is wrapping a flush or nothing. I think he could make a lot of thin value bets here with jacks and tens, because he has every reason to believe that he has the strongest hand, and he may think his bet looks suspicious. So but I agree that in a $2 tournament they probably don't find these thin value bets with tens and jacks. So then it is going to be a busted draw or a ace deuce or something like that. Nakam 8DS. Hello, I love this channel. Learning a lot. Thank you, Luigi. Thank you very much. I'm trying my best. I think you would be more followers and viewers if your channel is in the poker category, not the talk show category. Better promoted your website. Is it still in the talk show category? I tried to modify this, but apparently it didn't happen. Well, I would try for the next show for sure. But thank you very much for your.
Still, you reset it while you live.
Maybe I cannot modify this later on. I'm not sure. But I would definitely try. Yeah. On the river, like if he doesn't value bet tens or jacks here, then I like the call. And most of the villains probably don't. Yeah, these hands are fine. So one of the big benefits of check decide that we don't have to talk over all these hands where we basically agreed. And the next one, which is questionable, is this ace king of offsuit with 46 big blinds effective. Yeah, it is quite questionable. We can take a look at what the charts say, just to have a better feeling. It's definitely close whether you want to make a small 3-bet or a rejam. 4-7 even or 4-7 ask check decide would be optimized for mobile. Yeah, like that's on the list for sure, but we just have to put a lot of fixes out first for some usability issues, some notification system first, to know that someone reviewed your hand, someone commented on your hand, because you can make comments below the hand street by street, and we have to find some investors as well. So and also the main functionality of check decide is going to be a marketplace where, let's say you win the Sunday Million, or you just make a small stakes tournament run with a lot of comments, and then you will be able to put a price tag on your content and sell it to other users. So if you are a notable player and you have a huge follower base, then you can probably make decent money later on if this marketplace goes out. So this is what is our primary focus at this moment. But later on, we definitely want to have a mobile version as well. And when this COVID thing gets solved and live poker is back, then we would like to create an application where you can upload your live hands or construct your live hands from scratch as easily as you can upload hands now on desktop. And so it's on the list, but it will take a few months for sure. And rejamming 45 big blinds against the cutoff from the big blind. Let's see. 50 big blinds deep against the cutoff.
Excuse me, I will just get some water out of the fridge. Just a second.
Yeah. All right.
I'm back.
Try talking with the site. So there is an option available to upload the hand to check decide. Yeah, I started a talk with Party Poker. And we had a few meetings, but they said that they just don't want to do it right now. They are working on something else. I'm trying to reach GG Poker as well, to have Check Decide integrated as a hand history sharing tool, which could be very beneficial for them, given that sharing hands from GG Poker is somewhat complicated. But I'm still waiting for their answers. But if you have connection to them, just let me know and we'll work out. Haim Iversight says, hey guys, hello, how are you? And so 50 big blinds, big blind versus the cutoff. It is a small 3-bet, and 40 big blinds deep, big blind versus the cutoff. It is a rejam, so it's definitely questionable. In bounty tournaments, having a relatively big bounty on the head of the opponent, I prefer jamming. So he will not make a lot of light moves on your 3-bet anyway, but if you jam, you can get some action.
Oh, I'm proud of myself. We kind of on the same page in this mid stage. Not so much was on the early stage. This situation is somewhat close, but I still prefer making a small raise and probably folding to the big blind. I don't think they approach this situation aggressively enough, so I'm not really afraid of facing a lot of light rejams from the big blind. So raising, building a pot with the suited ace, and folding to a rejam is probably the play here. Jamming is probably still profitable, but not as profitable as raising and folding. Okay. Actually, I mispronounced the name of the newest follower. Haim Iversight. First I thought he would be Scandi, but no, actually he's Hungarian, with a bad word. Yeah. The open raise is very, very standard. And against the 15 big blind rejam, we can once again take a look at those charts which I created and which we used earlier. So I think I have to change what I share here. I stop sharing the screen and I share entire screen, maybe. Yeah. And let's share this. Yeah, it works. And now we can take a look at the raise calling total chart. And let's see, there it is. And what we have here, these are raise call values copied from Hold'em Resources Calculator, which is a fantastic tool for any tournament player. I don't get any commission from them yet. Later, I would like to integrate them to Check Decide, but that's a must-have tool for sure for any tournament player. But I wanted to make it easier for myself. So once I ran a ton of simulations with their tool, and then I put those results into an Excel, so I can very quickly take a broader picture of the situation. So what you have to do is we made a 2.2x open raise, and we are facing a 15 big blind rejam, and the pot before or raise was something like 2.3 BB. The bounty on the restealer, well, this is originally a $2 tournament, and the starting bounty was $1. Is that correct? Yeah, it was 75 cents and $1, something like that. So it's
Yeah. So $1. So we have 10 times the original bounty, which means the original bounty was worth around 30% of the starting stacks. The starting stacks were 25 big blinds, right?
Yeah, 25K.
So let's say it was 8,000 originally. The starting bounty was worth 8,000 chips. And now we see 10 times the original bounty, which is 10 times 8,000, which is 80,000, which is a little bit more than 3 big blinds, so 3.3, let's say, bounty on the restealer. And the restealer is blind. Yeah, he's big blind. Yeah, and or exact card is King 10 of suit. And now what this Excel makes is it gives you a very broad picture of what kind of resteal ranges you should imagine your opponent making this move with to justify a call. And what we can see is that if villain rejams hands like 10-9 suited, Queen 10 suited, like suited broadways a lot, Ace-4 suited, all the pocket pairs, but mainly these suited broadways, then this can become a profitable call. But if they don't, then this can be like a huge losing call still. So I don't think from the big blind they find these resteals. It is just too comfortable for them to just make a call with 10-9 suited. So I think folding is best here. But you elected to call, and whatever. Like, you got there. Good things happen sometimes, so it's all okay. But I think the call itself was a losing play. 4-7. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Luigi, do you still poker seriously, or the website takes all of your time? I coach a lot of students still, so, and I'm also still in 2 backing groups, so I pick up some information. But to be very honest, most of my time goes into developing the site, checking the processes, figuring out new features for you, and but maybe one day I return. We will see. I feel good about poker recently. Like
to win a WSOP bracelet, the second one, that you retire again.
We'll see.
Main event, then you're done.
Excuse me?
Just win the main event next year, and then you're done.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan. Yeah, for sure.
Easy money.
All right. The next one is a beautiful 8-4 of suit from the small blind, and you elected to complete it. No, you elected to fold. I elected to complete it. It really doesn't matter. Like, obviously, this hand is a piece of crap, but you can still probably play it profitably, especially against players who open limp.
You're getting much about calling from small blind, so
yeah, but not against a limp. Like against a limp, you can probably complete. Against an open race, obviously, I should call less. And the next one is this one. I think folding is fine. I don't really want to make a lot of raises because I can imagine them limp jamming a lot of marginal hands against a raise. So then you are basically wasting 75,000. Over limping is not really attractive because you have an offsuit hand and you're probably going to play a 4-way pot. So I think simply just folding is fine, but raising is not bad either. I'm just a little bit afraid that we face too many limp jams. Yeah, it is an interesting situation which we should talk of. First of all, in position, you will have some hands which you don't want to bet here, like hands like pocket kings, pocket queens, pocket jacks. Probably they are not really vulnerable, but they don't really have value, and they obviously don't never fold out any better. So therefore, those hands go to the checks. And in order to have a somewhat balanced range for your checks, the weakest ace-x hands in position usually go to your checks as well, and then they cannot really attack your check behinds. But making a huge bet here just doesn't accomplish too much. Like, it's not like there are a lot of draws here, or a lot of turn cards where equity suddenly shifts to his favor or anything. like this is the driest possible flop ever, and you have a very, very marginal holding. So yeah, you probably don't want to fold it to a limp jam or check raise on the flop, but you are not thrilled either. Like you don't want to put all your money in on this flop, probably most of the time. I mean, it will be a very rare case that your opponent does anything else than check folding or check calling. But if they happen to check raise, I would say they mostly have some monster, like ace tray, ace seven, pocket raise. But this is a rare case anyway. But you just don't want to use big sizes. You normally want to use big sizes when the flop favors you, but there are a lot of turns where where the equity shifts to the favor of your opponent. So if you take a look at the latest hand package, which I uploaded to Check Decide, to the CD original, it is a test for your c betting skills, and this is actually a situation where you want to use big sizes. So you open from the cutoff, you have all the strong hands, aces, kings, queens, jacks, tens, and your opponent doesn't 3-bet you from the big blind, so he probably doesn't have all these strong overpairs. And on the flop, this is a texture where you are in a big advantage, because like your overall range, because you have the overpairs, your opponent doesn't, and your opponent doesn't have probably pocket nines either for top set, because big blind versus cutoff, usually you want to 3-bet those, and they probably don't have like 9-5 offsuit, 5 deuce offsuit, 9 deuce offsuit. They probably fold these pre-flop, especially to a 2.5x open raise. So therefore, their range is quite capped here, and you can attack this capped range. Their strongest holding is probably like set of deuces and 9-5 suited, which are just a few combinations you should be afraid of, and also like something like ace 9, but that's it. And all the other hands are weaker, while you have a lot of overpairs and top set and almost all these strong hands he can have. So you have a big nut advantage, and you want to leverage this nut advantage by using big size bluffs with hands like this. Jack 10 offsuit, if you make a tiny bet, he can easily find like king queen suited with backdoor flush draw to either check call you or check raise you. The same goes for something like queen jack suited for a peel or for a check raise, and those hands are miles better than this jack 10. And if you make a big bet here, you can force all those better hands out, and this cleans your outs. So if you made had you made a small bet here on the flop and you get a call, you feel good on a jack, but you don't feel like thrilled to put many chips in. But if you made a pot size C bet here on this texture, then you force all those overcards out, and then if the turn comes with a 10 or jack, then you have a very comfortable feeling about your hand, and you can make thin value bets on the turn. You can still run a lot of bluffs on the turn, pressuring their ace 9, their king 9, their other 9x hands. So this is a situation where not only you want to use big sizes for that reason, but also there are quite a lot of turns which shifts the equity to the favor of the big blind. So if the turn comes in a 6, all of a sudden you don't have a really favorable situation, because your opponent can have offsuit 2 pairs, offsuit straights, etc. But if you make a huge bet, then your opponent has a really hard time even calling you with something like 8-7 suited or other strong direct gut shot hands to the nuts. And therefore, in situations like this, when you have a big advantage on the current street, but many of the next cards on the next street shift the nut advantage to the favor of your opponent, then you want to use big sizes, but not in the previous situation when let's see, do you remember the number of the 10?
100 something. We will see. I think 130-ish, somewhere there.
One second.
No.
Yeah, this is probably.
No. Yeah, that one.
Yeah. So in 1 second, I have to select my review. And yeah, so in this case, this is not the case. You either want to check or you want to use a very, very tiny bet just to take advantage of the situation. And if you happen to raise with something like Jack 10, Jack 9, Queen 9, etc., those hands which really want to fold out some king high hands and some tiny pocket pairs, etc., and then you want to use small sizing with those hands as well, and then you can make tiny c bets with your ace-x hands, but big size c bet just doesn't make sense here. And Queen 9 offsuit, yeah, like not a fantastic hand. I think just checking is fine. And you somehow elected to downbet this texture. Like, first of all, what do you think of the limping range of the guy with 40 big blinds?
Super strong.
I would not say like not on this texture, but on
I would say top 10% probably.
No, I think it is somewhat capped. I think most of the time they just raise pre-flop with their strongest hands, so that's fine. I think they lack a lot of strong hands, but what they actually tend to limp in, those hands are very weighted towards broad base, and this texture gives those hands a lot of connection, obviously, so you cannot really fold out anything better. Yeah, and and with no connection to the texture, I just don't like this bet at all. So normally you want to lead out on textures where you have nut advantage, where you have first of all you have so many strong hands that your opponent is very unlikely to make a bet for you. This is the case when the flop comes something like 7-6-5 or 8-6-5, 8-6-4. On these textures, the big blind has a lot of offsuit 2-pair hands, offsuit straights, and those hands are really threatening for the original raiser. So the original raiser often will elect to check behind on these textures, and in order to prevent them from seeing a free turn or taking a free card for themselves, the big blind often wants to lead out on these textures. But almost exclusively on these textures, you can make a profitable down bet. in any other case, like high textures like this, the big blind just has to play very cautiously, very passively, because the original raiser or the original limper has big nut advantage here. Nut advantage is about who has the more hands they can stack off with. And if you tend to put in a lot of chips in situations where you don't have hands to back your bets with, then your opponents have a very easy time like putting a pressure on you by making raises, making floats, and making you suffer. So you just cannot, like, this is the, the rule of poker, that you cannot start putting in chips without having an army behind you. And in this case, you don't have much of an army, I have to tell you. So yeah, yeah, it didn't work. Oh, you didn't give it up.
Oh no!
Can you break this down or no? Just
not at all. It was 3 a.m. So I don't know, brain fart, I guess.
Oh, but, and it worked. I apologize. Like,
I give classes.
Yeah. Yeah. Move of the century. Like,
that's what I'm at.
Yeah.
No, it's terrible. No explanation whatsoever.
I feel a little bit embarrassed for criticizing your
that's fine.
Masterpiece. Yeah. Limping is fine. With this hand, yeah, 20 big blinds effective. Usually you don't want to make any min raises at all. If you take a look at the charts, what we can see is that 20 big blinds effective, you don't really want to make small raises, because if you use your strong hands to make raises there, and then your limping ranges, you have a wonderful odds to complete with your marginal hands, your weak hands. And if you use your strong hands to make raises, then your limbs will be without any defense, and your opponent will be able to put a lot of pressure on your limbs. And therefore, it's like the solvers dictate that you should probably make a lot of trap limbs. And with your offsuit strongest hands, you just want to jam. With your most vulnerable small pocket pairs, you just want to jam. And once again, you see these small suited gappers and suited connectors, which have a solid equity when called, but you can fold out a lot of better hands, medium Broadway hands, etc., by open jamming. So it uses these hands as well to open jam. But all the rest, they just want to limp it, and it's fine. In bounty tournaments, I don't think your opponent will put a lot of pressure on you with a smaller stack. So maybe it changes the dynamics a little bit, and you should probably do some raising, because your opponent will not. First of all, your raise calling range can be much wider. So your opponent will have a hard time re-stealing on you, because you can call with hands like whatever, Jack 10 suited or Queen Jack suited, whatever you want to, basically. And therefore, yeah, probably raising with some blockerish offsuit hands is fine, just as a steal. I think if they make a raise, then I think limp folding these disconnected offsuit card is better. But we flopped good. And yeah, turn is really bad for us, but it's fine to just check and check call. Your opponent has a strong hand, a strong range pre-flop, so I'm a little bit worried here, but maybe he can still have some hands like Jack 10 suited, Ace 10, Ace Jack, or some weird bluffs and some weird bets like Ace 8, which wants to make a cheap bet for a cheap showdown or whatever. And on the river, yeah, it's quite terrible, but not blocking any of those ace jack, ace 10, jack 10 type hands, I think you can make a call. I have mixed feelings about this, but once again, you have to remind you about the odds you get. So you are risking 125,000 for over 400,000, which gives you great odds. And yeah, I think calling is fine. And yeah, it turned out to be good.
They just giving chips to us, man.
Yeah. And ace 9 of suit, even without this bigger stack, you could make a very easy open. You get 1 call, 2 call, 4 calls, yeah. And on the flop, yeah, like multi-way flops are somewhat tricky, but they are not as magical as many players think. The thing is that you have 3 opponents now, so your hands are quite tight, and you cannot make much of a move without any strong hand, or at least medium type hand. So first of all, what you want to do is making protection bets with a lot of hands, like marginal hands you have, like marginal top pairs, which normally in a heads-up pot, if you have a marginal top pair, you can check it, and you have 1 opponent, and they will not be able to outdraw you too much. But when you have 3 opponents and each of them has 4 outs against you, or just 3 outs, then that's a lot. That adds up to a lot. So you prefer them to prefer to fold out hands like 10x hands, gut shots, etc. So I think a tiny c bet works fine. I don't think you have to make a big c or biggish c bet though, because then you may risk too much with the marginal holding. You got 2 calls, which is not exactly what we wanted to see, and the turn is quite bad, but I'm not sure like the other guy would call you with too many 10x, especially he called from the small blind, and mostly just suited 10x hands, and the board blocks many of those, and the overcaller is probably not a 10x but rather an ace-x. So maybe it's not as terrible as we thought it would be, but definitely a check. And on the river, obviously, like he can have some hands like queen jack, and king queen, king jack, 9-7, jack 9. We block some of those, especially with the heart. So I'm not thrilled about this, but probably you have to call. I have really bad feelings about this, but once again, we have the odds, and maybe it can be like chopped hand with some other ace-x hand. So with all this said, I think calling is okay. I would not call for most of my chips, but having a huge stack and not affecting my future play too much, I think calling is fine. Yeah, especially if you have if he has hands like this, then it's a wonderful call. Yeah. The next one is this one. Yeah, limping is fine. Maybe with a huge bounty, against a huge bounty or relatively big bounty, sure, you can even jam this. This hand has solid equity. You pick up the flop, pick up the original pot quite often, and yeah, when he calls, you play something like 37, 63 or similar equity. Hello, Anna. Hello, back. Yeah. And yeah, on this texture, I don't think you should have much of a betting. You have to accept that this texture favors the check range of the big blind. So This is a frequent mistake from many low-stakes, mid-stakes tournament players, that they bet any kind of equity on any kind of texture, but you have to be aware that this is not your texture. You have some really strong hands, like some traps, and you have some craps, like basically, and you also have a lot of marginal holdings. Many times the turn favors the big blinds range even more. So he has all the offsuit 2 pairs, offsuit straights, and yeah, therefore you just have to check. And against this bigger bet, I think check folding is best, but we were not on the same page. And yeah, without any backdoor flush draw, I think check folding is fine. On the turn, I think checking is fine. And on the river, I would make a tiny bet just as a blocking bet. I don't think he has a lot of flushes, like backdoor flushes, and without a flush, he would never ever raise here. So yeah. I'm trying to read the comments. Which is the worst king X here? You jam because of the KO. I guess this is the this hand preflop. I think I would say like if we calculate this like $10 bounty was 80,000, so this is around like the double
140
150-ish, yeah, which is close to 5 BB. I would say king 4 suited and king 6 offsuit or something like that. Maybe I'm off, but around this neighborhood. Yeah. And yeah, there is a suggestion from Hivi Varshay to just don't bet the turn and don't bet the river, but I don't think you should don't bet here on the turn. You normally don't bet when the turn favors your range a lot, but I don't think it is the case here. He has a lot of 6x hands. He bet the flop with, and you have a lot of ace-x hands and marginal 7x and 5x hands. So and then also the board can change a lot on the reverse. And normally when the texture is very dynamic, you don't want to put too much chips in out of position, because your opponent will have enough hands to call you with, and on many rivers the board changes, and then they have a profitable bluff situation. So you don't want to build up pots on dynamic textures. Yeah. I think on the turn we can check call, because villain can still have some semi bluffs, some bluff flush draws, some 10x. So on the turn, I think check calling is fine. On the river, I think a tiny bet is the best. And yeah, it's unlucky. But the sad truth is that small blind versus big blind, you just gonna suck anyway. Like as against a decent or at least an aggressive player, you will end up losing some. But if you make fewer bets on the flop, fewer loose bets on the flop, you will lose a little bit less. I cannot summarize better than this, but you cannot realize all your equity out of position. That's the sad truth of poker. Yeah, raising is fine. On this flop, I think you want to see bet some. You have to differentiate between Queen Jack and Jack 10 or Jack 9 or Jack 8. Not having an overcard kicker usually makes your hand inferior to slow playing. So you don't want to give a free card to your opponent if you don't have an overcard kicker. In general, you want to fast play Jack 10 the most and slow play Queen Jack the most, because Queen Jack has some protection against some random overcards, while Jack 10 doesn't. And Jack 8 is questionable, but you still want to see bet some and then give up on the river probably. I'm not sure what I'm talking about because I suggested the check, but I think I made a mistake here, and betting is fine. Yeah, on the turn, I think checking is fine. In general, you will have fewer Jack X than your opponent when your opponent makes a call here. You can have some loose C bets, but he will have much fewer loose calls on a flush draw texture. So I think checking here, like pretending that this Jack hit us bad, is fine. And when they check behind, then their range is somewhat capped. Unfortunately, the river changed the board a little bit. I would still lead out probably. I expect very honest reactions from the in-position player. He can have some hands like even like ace queen or I'm not sure, but like king queen with the king of hearts. So we can get some loose calls, but I'm not really sure like what of. But seeing all these hands, I tend to question my original range building habits. Whatever. This doesn't matter.
Betting is for sure better, I think, now looking, because he would just check behind pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Ace, queen, king, queen, even gonna check probably.
Yeah. Obviously, we run into flushes from time to time, but I think his non-flush bluff candidates like ace tray or something like queen 10 of clubs, he would almost always bet on the turn, because on the turn it looks like you are giving up or this jack is not to your favor, and therefore they, as I mentioned, they bluff everything as soon as possible. This is their main leak, and therefore they often don't have enough bluff candidates on the river when it goes check on the turn. And the next one is this bugging nines. Yeah, I think 44 big blinds versus the button, it is probably best to just rejam with all the bounty in play. Once again, like when you make a 3-bet with your pocket nines, you often get a call from Jack King, even just Jack 10 suited, Queen Jack suited, King Queen suited, whatever, all the broadways, and then you are building a pot with a hand which you probably have to pot control later on, and which is vulnerable to many overcards. So with pocket nines, you often see rejamming with fairly deep stacks as well. Like if you take this situation 40 big blinds deep against the button, we see that from the small blind, we almost always rejam even weaker pocket pairs like pocket 8s, pocket 7s. And with the bounty in play, this is especially like tempting.
Okay.
Yeah. But
I always flop a set with 9.
Yeah. Duran is asking whether I think $2 player will figure out and call this large river size with pocket 8s or 10s or something, or just with Queen X. Well, I have seen some weird calls, so I'm always optimistic that I'm going to get called by something which I didn't even expect to get a call. So I can easily imagine them calling with something like ace 3, or what was the second pair, or ace 4, ace deuce. I can imagine sometimes being called like maybe he says that I would not bet the river this big size with queen x, and maybe he thinks I would barrel all my flush draws, and then therefore he finds calling with ace 4 profitable or tempting. So it's up to him, but I think in low stakes tournaments they tend to make like mid-size calls way too often. So yeah, I would bet, but I'm not thrilled about this river bet. But I think it's just better than check calling, and maybe check folding is the best, but that just looks a little bit too weak. Yeah, rejamming is fine, but he just called, and on the flop, I think yeah, once again, like we have such a strong hand that we don't really mind whether to check or bet. Also on this texture, I think
Isn't it better check here? Because if you have like king, queen, and ace, king, he folding to an open, I think. Almost all. I mean, king, queen, probably not, but...
But it probably doesn't matter too much. And you are right that normally we want to check second sets the most, because there, like most of his check behind on the flop would be hands like queen jack, or queen 9 suited, 10-9 suited, and as we block those hands, it is much more likely that he has somewhat more of a polar range, like very strong hands like jack x and plus, or weaker hands which take a shot on like and they bet on this flop, or they or we don't lose any value against them because they may pick up some equity later on if it goes check. So yeah, I don't think it matters too much. I just think that he has quite a few 10x hands he could check behind here. Therefore, like in his calling range, definitely there is a lot. So I think betting is slightly better. If it went check, then we can bet big on the turn, and yeah, we can accept this all in, and we say thank you.
These pawns are epic, man.
Yeah, but this is what I'm talking about when making marginal folds. Like was this hand hard for you? No, definitely not. And it resulted a lot of chips still, and these happened quite frequently in these stakes. So you have to think about these hands all the time when leveling yourself into a big call on the river with a marginal holding. Yeah. Do we have large c-bet size on this flop? It normally depends on how polar your 3-bet range is with this one. I think when 3-betting from small blind versus the button, you have a fairly merged linear 3-bet range. So you have some top pairs like king jack suited. You have some medium strength hands as well. So in this case, you don't necessarily want to use large c-bet sizes, but with a strong hand like this, not blocking the top pair and not blocking some straights, I think you want to use a slightly bigger sizing than a 1/3 pot, because this is not a texture. Like normally you want to use small sizes when your opponent has a lot of auto folds, but this is not the case here. Like your opponent doesn't really have to like too many auto folds, and therefore you rather want to go with slightly bigger sizing, and you also want to have some checks. So yeah, I think half pot with this hand, with these stack sizes is fine. And let's see what you do with queens, which I disagreed with. Yeah, with this one, I think small 3-betting is fine. He may open somewhat loose, and obviously this hand is different than pocket nines. With pocket nines, you prefer closing the action pre-flop. With queens, you rather want to induce. So obviously, it looks quite strong that you make a small 3-bet here, 26 big blind effective. But if you think they fold too much, then you can still find some ace-5 of suit to make a light 3-bet here, and then if they still overfold, then you are happy about it. And let's see. I think this is a clear fold. This is once again a mistake, which I see a lot from my students, is that they tend to overvalue offsuit gappers and offsuit hands in general in 3-bet pots. So this would be a fold even if it was a min raise, but given if it's 3x, I think it's a very, very clear fold. These hands simply perform too weak. This is once again confirmed by the robots, the simulations, and they tried it millions and billions of times to make this hand somehow profitable with calls, but they failed. So you're probably gonna fail as well. And yeah, it's just a fold, and we have to fold here. And this is an interesting situation. One of the spots where population makes a lot of mistakes is when they face a limp from the button. Even if it's a strong player who limps in, you want to have some non-all-in isolation. I do a lot of limping myself, and you have to do some limping from the button as the first guy in the pot. And what I suffer the most against is 4.5x raises from the small blind or from the big blind, because those make my cheap flop plan like suddenly they crush my plans, and I have to play a big pot. And one of the hands which you can make these non-all-in isolations with is hands like King X, high and low offsuit combination. So against a button limp, 20 big blinds deep, the big blind should use some King X, King 6 off, King 5 off, King Deuce off, King 3 off, not that much, but it doesn't matter. Like with some frequency, you want to make 4x raises with these hands, and I think it works quite good in practice as well. So I highlighted this hand to talk about this, that this is a powerful move to make. If he just made the check, then I think check folding is fine. Leading, once again, you don't want to lead on texture which are not really in your favor. Like he can trap limp some aces, kings. He can definitely limp with a lot of 10x, and you have a lot of crappy hands on the big blind. You never trap check and like aces or you even jam a lot of like ace 10, king 10 type hands. So I think simply checking and folding is better. On the turn, ace, once again, not your card. You should not lead on. And yeah, this is very, very random, and I don't like this. Like even if it works, it's just so much against any logic and any strategy that I cannot really approve it. But I hope it worked, but it didn't. Yeah, and wow, actually I like the river code the most. Like from all the moves, like obviously the pre-flop check is fine. Flop bet is quite terrible. Turn bet is probably the worst. But if we get here, I think check calling is quite okay because villain can have some busted straight draws. We don't really block those like Jack 9, Jack 8, 9-8, and some Queen Jack, King Jack, King Queen type hand. So I'm somewhat okay with the river call, but definitely not with the turn lead. And yeah, it turned out not to be good. And yeah, like originally I planned this show to be 2 hours, and I know you are tired, so I think this would be the last hand of today's session. And next week I have another guest, another student of mine, David, who scored for 40K in the Battle of Mota main event in GG Poker. So we will start reviewing that tournament as well. But if we see a demand from the chat to continue this tournament, maybe they are interested in the late game play, then we can continue on one day. We will see. Like we'll talk about this in the chat and in the Discord channel, like what they prefer, and we will go by the demand. If they say they would prefer something else, then we continue in private. Let this be the last hand of this session. We make a raise, we face a squeeze. I'm just a little bit afraid that this call is too strong here. I don't really see players calling too much with marginal holdings here, but yeah, whatever. You cannot really make a mistake. Having an ace blocks the chance that he has something like aces, and you definitely want to get it in versus the 9 BB stack, or you are quite okay with that. I would still think I fold. I feel some traps here. But maybe I overestimate their ranges. Yeah, I did. But whatever. You did it. Anyway, yeah. Thank you very much, Roland, once again for being here and for being my guest. I hope it was valuable both for you and for the chat. And yeah, let me know what I can improve with the stream. And see you at Check Decide. You can find Check Decide Discord channel. I will put it into the description. You can also find it on the Twitch profile of Check Decide. So yeah, let's see each other on the platform, and have a great day. Sleep well, Roland, and talk to you next week.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.